Amazing. Hello, everyone. We are now live for our journalism and also journalism and humanities session. Today, we will have our speakers talk a little bit about each of the topics that we have here today. But before we get started, I do want to give a quick land acknowledgement for the land that Carleton is located on, which is the traditional and unceded territories of the Algonquin Nation. Now, I know we are not all on Carleton's campus currently, but we do want to give that appreciation and respect for the land that we are located on as a school. So feel free to get started with your presentation, and it should be a really good session. So you have the floor, speakers.
Okay, thanks, Tatiana. My name is Randy Boswell. I'm a journalism professor at the School of Journalism, and I'm going to, I guess, be your guide through our introduction to the program today. I'm going to introduce a few other colleagues of mine over the course of the next 20, 25 minutes or so as we chat about the program. Throughout this, questions may arise in your mind, and please feel free to type them into the chat box. But you can also hold on to your questions until the end of the presentation, because we'll have some time in the last 15 minutes or so to answer directly some of your questions. And there will be several prompts throughout the presentation as well, where I provide email addresses where you can reach out to us anytime. And that goes for today or for the future weeks and months as you contemplate your plans for next year and beyond, where you can reach out anytime to contact us. What we try to project here is a very open invitation for anyone interested in our program to find out more about it, we welcome all questions. So let me give you a little bit of introduction to journalism at Carleton. So this is me, Randy Boswell. So I'm the undergraduate supervisor, which means you can ask me anything about our program, the courses that you need to take, what the prospects are for careers in and around journalism. Like other professors in the school and our many contract instructors, I spent most of my career as a journalist working for newspapers and wire services in Canada. This is Pawasha Aussie. She is here with us today. Hi, Pawasha. Pawasha is the administrator of the undergraduate program in journalism. Essentially, Pawasha is the brains of this operation. She knows all about how students register, stay on the right pathway in terms of their road to graduation eventually. She's a first point of contact along with me as any problems arise within your academic program or in your personal life at university, and also can answer all kinds of questions about the process of applying and registering in the program. And Pawasha, maybe I'll invite you now just to say hello to our guests. Oops, are you there?
Oh, there we go. Yeah, I'm here. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Randy, for the introduction. My name is Pawasha, and I'm the Undergraduate Administrator. We have a wonderful program here with wonderful instructors. I would be, alongside with Randy, would be your first point of contact for any support that you would need throughout your program, whether it is course registration, whether it's just support throughout your pathway to graduation, making sure you have all the mandatory requirements you need. We're happy to help our students succeed in any way that we can. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Pawasha. And that is a good point to make, which is that we're here to help people succeed, to figure out their, how to get into the program, how to do well once you're here, and that's part of the job that we do. So again, feel free to reach out anytime to us. And that's just reinforcing the point. Ask any questions you have. So the place that we are inhabiting is the School of Journalism Communication at the Richcraft Hall at Carleton University, a beautiful setting, which I'll talk a little bit more about. And you can actually glimpse it there behind Professor Thompson, who's going to be speaking momentarily as well. He's on site. I'm at home. Carleton's journalism program is quite renowned. It's a flagship program of Carleton University. It's nearly as old as the university itself. We celebrated our 75th anniversary a few years ago. It was Canada's first journalism school. It is Canada's best known journalism school, and probably it's best known because so many of our graduates go on to become the leading journalists in the country and work for a wide variety of publications and broadcasters and digital news organizations. It's important to mention that many of our graduates go on to careers outside of journalism as well. And so that the education you get at this school is not just merely a training ground for future journalists, but for policy researchers and authors and professors and public servants and politicians and many, many other fields are peppered with graduates from our program. There are probably closer to 6,000 people now who possess degrees from Carleton's journalism program, both at the undergraduate and at the master's level. At any given time, there are around 450, 500 students in the program, because there's about 100 students per year in the program, first, second, third, and fourth year in the undergraduate program. And we also have a number of, as I mentioned, graduate students who are part of our Master of Journalism program. There are about 15, a few more, I think, at this moment, full-time professors at the school, as well as over 30 contract instructors who are working professionals who teach courses within the program, so that we have a healthy lineup of faculty positions, but then augmented by a number of journalists who are teaching courses, but they are immersed, in fact, in the working world of journalism, and therefore can bring fresh perspectives and experience to the teaching. As I mentioned briefly, there are many well-known School of Journalism alumni, across Canada's media landscape. This is just a smattering of what could be a list of literally hundreds who are bringing you the latest news. In fact, out of the Ukraine-Russia conflict, they were the ones on the front lines of the trucker convoy reporting, and just daily in the media landscape across Canada and beyond. Carleton journalism graduates are among the best known and influential journalists in the country. The setting of our university and the School of Journalism is, we think, an exceptional selling point. Canada's capital is a really beautiful city with all kinds of institutions, in large part because this is the capital, major arts institutions, major research and political institutions, of course. It also happens to be an incredibly interesting and rich city because it's on the boundary between Quebec and Ontario and between Ottawa and Gatineau. It's a very green place with great expanses of wilderness and natural areas. It has a pretty vibrant cultural life. So in many ways, when you are applying to attend university at Carleton, you are also getting the bonus of coming to an extremely vibrant, dynamic city. Just a few of the many, many, many images that we could be showing that kind of exemplify that. Like I said, you get a lot of value-added features when you come to university in the city of Ottawa. Ta-da! So the campus itself is actually part of that, I would say, attractiveness of the city, because Carleton is wedged between the Rideau Canal and the Rideau River in a very sort of expansive green belt area of the city, with the famous experimental farm and arboretum to one side, a major city park to the south, and these waterways that are renowned, kind of ringing the university campus. And once again, our home, Richcraft Hall, which again is showcased there behind Professor Thompson, who will be speaking momentarily. But it's one of the newest buildings on campus. It's got wonderful vistas, excellent state-of-the-art workspaces and classrooms, and it's simply a very welcoming and comfortable place to undertake a good portion of your education. I mean, obviously, when you're a student at Carleton, you're occupying many buildings and working across the campus. But our home is Richcraft Hall. And one of the nice things about the journalism program and the Bachelor of Journalism and Humanities, which we'll also talk about today, is that there really is a community that gets established around your cohort as students as you work your way through the program. So it's a fairly small community compared to a lot of other disciplines, but that's a definite advantage, because we tend to get to know the students, the teachers, and the students get to know each other over the course of their time together. Just a few other shots from inside Richcraft Hall and the vista on the edge. Like I mentioned, state-of-the-art facilities for broadcasting instruction, both radio and video, audio and video. Our philosophy at the school is that students, roll up their sleeves, do hands-on work to learn how to be journalists, and in the process, they learn a lot about how the world works, how political systems and other civic institutions work, and we learn by doing. It's an experiential process in the School of Journalism, perhaps more so than many other disciplines. Again. And it's a program that prepares students very well for the working world and for careers. And so it's a kind of an outward-facing program, and there are many opportunities, in fact, to do journalism while you're in school learning how to do journalism. This is our flagship digital news site, where many of the assignments that students work on as they are building their skills get to display what they've produced for public audience. We have now thousands of stories that students have produced that are published through the Capital Current website, as well as audio and video journalism that can be accessed through this portal. And I'm going to strongly encourage people to go to capitalcurrent.ca and have a look at what our students can produce even before they've graduated. And again, that encompasses the audio and video journalism. One of the approaches that Carleton has always used is to give students a solid grounding in a range of different media formats. And we've always felt that that was the best way to prepare our graduates for careers, again, in journalism and beyond, but with an array of skills that allows them to adapt to whatever circumstances they might encounter in the professional world. everything that I'm saying here today, or much of it, and a lot of the information underpinning what we talk about here is available at our own website, which has lots of information, not only about the courses that you would be taking in the pathway to graduation, but about the culture in our school, about the activities that are going on. This is a very busy place. We have professors who are engaged in all kinds of research activities. We have very dynamic students who are producing projects and getting attention for the work that they do. And there are many events and so forth that happen in and around the school that make it a very, very vibrant place to have an education. And again, this is just a few shots from our website giving you an idea about, certain news developments or projects that some of the people in our faculty and in the student body are doing. Okay, which brings me to the director of our school, Professor Alan Thompson. Alan, thank you for joining us today. Alan is a well-known figure in Canadian journalism. He was a Toronto Star superstar reporter for many years, and covering Canadian politics and international affairs. Alan has been with the school for this slide says 17 years, but I'm wondering if it should actually be 18 now, and maybe 19. And he is the associate director of the School of Journalism and Communication and the program head of the journalism department. So, Professor Thompson, some words of welcome for our guests today.
Thanks, Randy. And as Professor Boswell said, I am actually sitting here in the home of the School of Journalism in Richcraft Hall. If you could be where I am, I look out there and I'm looking at the river. It's a great space to work and to spend time. This is a really, really interesting time to be thinking about a career in journalism. So thank you for doing that. We really want you here. And the reason we do sessions like this, anything that you need to know about this program, anything that's not clear to you from today, we're really easy to find and very responsive. We're journalists. We answer our email. And you literally just take our names, alan.thompson@carleton.ca. Any question at all that you have about coming to Carleton, don't hesitate to get in touch. That's what we're here for. We're making some changes. There've been a lot of changes in the last few years here at Carleton. A lot of new faculty members, a real reckoning around what it means to work in journalism, and race and diversity is our top priority right now. We also try to respond to what our students have to say. And in recent years, I know a lot of students who come into the first year of the program say to us, I wish we had more journalism in the first year, more of a chance to write and to get involved in journalism. So we're responding to that, and we are adding an additional course next year that will be available to all first-year journalism students called Writing with Style, that will be taught by a longtime, well-known Canadian journalist, Trish Odette Longo. And so that's a new addition to the program. Another thing that Carleton has been known for over the years, 15, 16 years ago, I set up a program that partnered us with School of Journalism in Rwanda in a post-genocide period in Rwanda. For a long time, we sent Carleton journalism students as interns initially to Rwanda and then other places around the global south. That program was suspended because of COVID 2 years ago. We couldn't send people abroad in 2020, 2021. We won't attempt it this summer because things are still uncertain enough that it's probably not feasible to do it, but absolutely, unless the world goes sideways, we will be doing these international internships again in the following year and during your time here at Carleton. And that over the years has allowed hundreds of Carleton students to go and get a chance to work for a few months in the global south and gain that life experience. So it's just part of what we try to do here at Carleton. We have a very active schedule of events and keynote speakers. I would really encourage you, go to the school's website and click on the news section. And that will give you a really good opportunity to see some of the things that have been going on in the school. As recently as last Tuesday evening, we had a really great event, Journalism Under Siege, where we had 6 of the reporters in person, 1 by video, who had covered the Freedom Convoy day in and day out for those 3 weeks, talking about those events. This is a really exciting time to get into this field. You just look at the role journalists played helping us understand the pandemic. I'm glued to my television right now watching events in Ukraine, and it's journalists who are bringing those events to us. But the journalism is also changing. We're seeing a lot of use of footage that non-journalists have taken. And a lot of young journalists are reporting on a situation like Ukraine. So lots of opportunities. We're a great place to come and study journalism. Any questions at all that you have about what we do, how it works, what the opportunities might be, don't hesitate to get in touch. And my phone number is, if you go to Carleton's site, you'll find out how to reach me. And I'm absolutely happy to talk to students anytime.
Okay, thank you, Alan. Much appreciated. Alan and Pawasha are both going to remain with us through the Q&A period at the end of this presentation. If you have any questions that are best directed to them, and I may call on them to answer some of the questions too. Anyway, thanks, Professor Thompson. I want to talk a little bit about, again, some of the foundational principles of this school. And one of them is that in addition to training in journalism, right from the very beginning, this program has considered it essential to also make it possible for students who are taking a journalism degree to get well-grounded in a range of other subjects. So the way it was described back in the 1940s was, prepare people with general social intelligence and specific social, fiscal, industrial knowledge about the world. What it really means is that you get a balanced education. There is a lot of professional training in a journalism program. But you can take a fulsome academic range of subjects to augment your journalism education so that you graduate from a program like this with at least one other specialization beyond journalism, but also the opportunity to craft a pathway to graduation that includes, exposure to a good range of subjects, both in the humanities and social sciences and other subjects. And that's something that is, not only made possible in our program, it's encouraged, and we think it's a huge asset and value-added feature of our program. We call it the Journalism Plus Advantage. And what it means is that there's room in your schedule to take at least a minor concentration in another subject. And that means 4 credits out of the full 20 that you would take in your degree, which means, in other words, 8 classes out of about 40 classes total in your degree, which would be concentrated in another subject. And I'm going to show you in a minute some of the opportunities for different subjects. In addition to that, you could even build a more concentrated degree, combining journalism with another subject, where you take up to 6 or 7 other credits in a different area, such as political science or English or global affairs, that kind of thing. There is also a pathway where you can do a BJ with a concentration in health sciences, and we're going to be hearing more about another degree pathway, which is the Bachelor of Journalism and Humanities, and I'll be welcoming a colleague from the Humanities department to speak briefly about that as well. If you're wondering what kinds of subjects you can combine your journalism studies with, well, the possibilities are pretty much endless. This is just a sampling, in fact, of, I think there are something like 40 different subjects that can be combined with journalism for a combined honors. That's the full sort of 6 or 7 credit concentration, or the mandatory minor concentration of 4 credits. But as you can see, it's a very long list of other subjects. And like I said, this is something we feel is a really valuable part of the journalism program here, where you leave Carleton University with a very robust education and exposure to a lot of different disciplines. So the Journalism and Humanities program is one particular pathway that is highly specialized, and it involves a range of subjects that are laid out over the course of a 4-year program, and usually about a quarter or maybe a fifth of the students in the journalism program at any time are pursuing the Journalism and Humanities pathway. And when Dr. Salmon joins us, I'll stop and let him talk a little bit more about the Journalism and Humanities program. This is a quick introduction now, but I'll move on in the presentation until Dr. Salmon joins us in a few minutes. So what does all this lead to? Well, once again, just to remind you of some of the distinguished alumni that come from the School of Journalism. If you ever watch, the main national newscast in the country, you'll see that Andrew Chang is one of the hosts. He's a graduate of this school. If you pick up Chatelaine magazine, you'll see that one of our graduates is a top editor. Radia Chowdhury. If you support the charitable mission of the United Way, guess what? The Vice President of Marketing and Communications is a Bachelor of Journalism graduate and actually one of our contract instructors now. If you happen to be a sports fan, you may recognize TSN's James Duthie, who was actually a graduate of the Bachelor of Journalism program the same year I graduated back in 1989. Kim Brunhuber, a very well-known international journalist now with CNN. Colleen Thorpe, another graduate from the year that I graduated back in the 1980s. She leads Quebec's largest environmental group, Equiterre. Andre Lau, CBC's managing editor of digital news. Taylor Blewett, a fairly recent graduate who is a workhorse at the Ottawa Citizen across all platforms, filling the pages of the paper, producing their daily video wrap-up, all kinds of content being produced by Taylor. Very high-profile Canadian journalists like Nala Ayed, who is the host of CBC Radio's Ideas Now and a very, very well-known foreign correspondent for many years at the CBC. And Rosemary Barton, who's probably Canada's best-known political journalist these days, host of Rosemary Barton Live on weekend CBC television, and a frequent commenter on public affairs from day to day in Canada. All graduates of our school, which we're very proud of. So how do you get from there, or from here, at the outset of potential journalism careers to those august positions where your name is known across the country as someone helping to interpret political affairs and other events that are happening across Canada and around the world. Our first year courses are taught by Sarah Everetts and Brett Pappawell, and I'll just briefly introduce you to them. Sarah is a very well-known science writer, multi-award winning. She recently wrote and published the book Joy of Sweat, which is a bestseller across North America. focusing on, as the subtitle says, the strange science of perspiration. A delightful writer and a wonderful teacher. And in fact, Sarah teaches the introductory course for our first year students. That's called Journalism in Context, and it's basically a survey of sort of the historical foundations, the principles behind journalism, and it also sort of begins the introduction into exactly what the life of a working journalist is. In the winter part of the first term, the journalism course that's taught is by Brett Pappawell, who's a very well-known magazine writer in Canada, and he's been part of our faculty for about 5 years. Brett, as I mentioned, has won many awards for his long-form journalism, which is his specialty. He also heads our Future of Journalism initiative, which is a research and sort of think tanking body within the school that carries out a number of different projects. Brett conducts his own research, as many of our faculty members do. And he teaches a course called Practicing Journalism in a Diverse Society that underscores the message that Alan mentioned earlier, that a major focus of our program is preparing our graduates to be productive and influential working professionals in a diverse society. And have I got Noel here yet? No? Okay. I'll just keep on. I mentioned earlier that one of the nice things about our program is that, the students form a community. And one of the expressions of that is that, there's the Journalism Society, which organizes a range of events over the course of a year, which can be social events, but they can also be professional development events. There are introductions to mentors, students who connect with people in the profession through the Journalism Society to learn more about what life would be like as a journalist. And at the same time, there are a number of social events that JSOC organizes. And it's a nice way to sort of feel, more part of this community. There's also the Association for Equity and Inclusion in Journalism, which is a newer group, but is also concerned with, supporting the mission of the school to make sure that all of the students from any number of equity-seeking groups feel at home in our program and have avenues to explore those connections with each other. Other opportunities abound at Carleton. The Charlatan is a very popular student news publication, which many of our students not only contribute to, but end up leading because of the special skills that they acquire in the School of Journalism. And so this is a sort of a common feature of a journalism student's education at Carleton, is to also be active with the Charlatan publication. Keep in mind that Carleton University has many opportunities for international exchanges so that students can spend a term or more abroad in other institutions while continuing to work towards their graduation requirements here. We have a number of students in the journalism school who every year go to Europe or elsewhere to spend a term studying. And it's something that if you have a hankering to get an exchange experience abroad, then there's every opportunity to do that within the School of Journalism and more broadly at Carleton. Now, did I see Noel arrive yet? I think I did briefly. Are you there, Noel? Nay? Okay, I'm carrying on. Again, feel free to ask any questions that you have in the chat. I'm going to wind up the formal presentation here, and then we'll just invite questions. But just a few more things to say. To kind of quickly chart out the pathway to graduation. So in the first year, in your time in the journalism program, you only have those 2 credits, 2 courses that I mentioned earlier, journalism in context and journalism in practice. The rest of your schedule would be credits in other areas, including a specialized area that you start to carve out for your degree, and that could be any of those other subjects. In second year, things get a little bit more intense in the journalism program. You get more practical experience with, for example, the fundamentals of reporting, the digital journalism toolkit, which is a course that gives you greater familiarity with the digital tools of the trade, photography, social media, and many others. And you also get a grounding in media law. In other words, making sure that you understand the special responsibilities of being able to publish information for wide audiences when it comes to legal issues and ethical issues. I should also mention, of course, that as Alan mentioned earlier, we are adding an option in first year for journalism students. That's the Writing in Style course that kicks in starting in the fall, and will be an additional option for students in first year. In third year, there's a considerable increase in the amount of journalism training that you're getting, both audio and video journalism, adding to ongoing sort of development in digital reporting, which is fundamental from the outset. There's also opportunities to work on in-depth reporting, which is sort of a longer form of journalism with sort of enhanced research and levels of analysis that are built into the writing assignments. And then there is a course dedicated to digital media ethics, understanding again the role of journalists in society and the various ethical challenges that can confront journalists and the various frameworks for making decisions about how to conduct journalism responsibly. And finally, we get to the fourth year, and there's a course that all students take called Journalism Now and Next, which is a sort of an overview course about issues in journalism in general, and that's always evolving because there's new issues that arise all the time. And then there's a wide range of options that journalism take where they can specialize in particular subject areas, such as health and environment reporting, arts and culture, or sports. And then a number of other sort of specialized subject areas where, more in-depth examination of certain fields within journalism can be explored. Okay, so, yeah.
There was a message in the chat from Tatiana that she wanted to pause the session for just a moment to bring in the other speaker from journalism and humanities. So I'm not sure if that's still the plan, Tatiana, if you can let us know.
Yeah, this is a good moment to do so. I've kind of wrapped up the presentation that gives people an idea of what the program is all about, and be happy to hear from Noel now. So, Tatiana? We're back. And this is my opportunity to introduce Dr. Noel Salmon, who is here to speak on behalf of the humanities part of the program. And I did mention, Noel, that the sort of most common pathway through the program is the Bachelor of Journalism, but a good number of our students take the alternative pathway of the Bachelor of Journalism and Humanities, and that it's in keeping with the spirit of our program, which is that students get a solid grounding in journalism, but that there are opportunities for them to get a more well-rounded education in a range of subjects. So maybe you can just tell us a little bit about the Bachelor of Journalism and Humanities degree.
Thanks, Randy, very much. Yes. So in your journalism program, you were saying that journalism students can do a joint degree with a range of disciplines. In the case of doing the joint degree with humanities, what we offer is an interdisciplinary but very well thought out and very structured walk through the historical development of human civilizations, looking at a range of areas, literature, philosophy, religion, all historically sequenced. And so I think one of the great benefits for journalism students doing our program is that they get this very carefully crafted interdisciplinary walk through basically the historical evolution of human cultures, looking at these areas like philosophy and literature and even history of art as well as, you know, history of ideas. So students in the joint program can do all the required courses for your journalism school while simultaneously doing all the required core courses for our Bachelor of Journalism, so-called Great Books program. And we've been really pleased with the students who have entered the joint program over the last few years. And I think it's been an enormous benefit to both us in humanities and you in the journalism program. And when I think about recent events, how important it is to have skilled journalists these days, given the avalanche of misinformation, disinformation, etc., and to have investigative journalists, what a vital role they play, and to have journalists trained in ethics and in investigative techniques, vitally important. I think what our joint program can offer, in addition, though, for students who sign on for it, is a great deal of intellectual flexibility garnered because of the fact that our program is interdisciplinary, but also a knowledge of a very well thought out grounding in history, in political philosophy and political science, in the study of religion, and how ancient religious ideas still inform the way people think, even in the secular world that we inhabit today. So it's, I think, a very useful path for students interested in journalism, but not sure exactly which discipline they might want to do a joint degree in. Would I do history? Would I do English? Would I do art history? Would I do philosophy? Would I do political science? Well, if you do the journalism and humanities joint degree, you're getting exposed to all of those in a very intellectually rigorous community that has a strong sense of community, because our program, like yours, has dedicated facilities. We have our own lecture theater, our own seminar room. We have our own common room or lounge for our students. And there's a lot of interaction between the faculty and students, either in the Bachelor of Humanities or the joint Journalism and Humanities degree. And also a lot of interaction in small seminar settings, not only with your faculty members, but with your fellow students if you enter the joint program with us. So I don't think there's a lot more I need to say about it. I think you referred to journalism as a flagship program at Carleton, and I think that's absolutely true. That's also true of the Bachelor of Humanities Great Books program that was set up just over, well, coming on now 25 years ago. But we've had great success placing our students in government employment right out of the Bachelor of Humanities degree, but they've also gone on, many of our students, to very illustrious graduate programs all over the world. And so we're looking forward to seeing the joint BJ, BHUM students on the national news, as you pointed out. So many of the graduates of the journalism program have show up there, for the public to see.
Yeah.
So I know we're at the end of our time. I'd be happy to answer questions if they come up in the chat. But thanks for this opportunity for saying a word. One other thing I should say to anyone who's listening is that in the Bachelor of Humanities program, we very much encourage you to come and see us. You're invited to sit in on one of our lectures or sit in on one of our seminars, come and have a little tour, talk to some current students in the student common room, and get a sense of what it actually looks like, and experience some of our courses. And that's something we're very welcoming to any prospective students to take that opportunity.
Great. Thanks, Noel. And I appreciate if you can hang in there in case some questions come up specifically about the BJ Hum. Tatiana, do we have time for a few questions then? I see there's one here asking about recommendations for preparing for the first year. Maybe, Alan, I'll ask you to address that one.
Yeah, that one's from Julia. Good question. Good to ask questions. That's one way to prepare for coming to the School of Journalism is questioning everything, challenging notions about journalism and the way journalism could or should be done. We're open to that. Literally getting ready to come here for the first year. For one thing, if you haven't made your mind up yet, if you're uncertain, get in touch with us. Absolutely. If you would like to connect with any of our current students, if you'd like to talk with someone who's in the first year now and touch base with them about their experience, we're happy to do that. I always encourage students, consume lots of journalism.
That's right. Yeah.
Broaden your journalism diet. I know my own son's in his early 20s. I know the way he acquires information, maybe doesn't listen to the radio as much as my generation, watching TV news. I think it's a really good habit to get into, to broaden the way you take in your news. Listen to As It Happens in the World at 6 on CBC Radio. Try to watch some of the evening newscasts. Pick up a physical newspaper and add that to what you're already obviously consuming for most people through their online news diet. And come and visit us if you're, I'm not sure, Julia, if you're in town or where you're living, but come to visit. And I have done virtual tours, people who can't get to Ottawa. The technology allows us. I will just walk you around our school with my phone and show you our studios, introduce you to some students. So just be in touch is my main message.
Oh, good. Are there any other questions? I can't necessarily see all the chatted questions, so
I'm just looking, and Julia's was in the chat box.
Okay.
I don't see any in the Q&A.
Okay. Tatiana, can people just speak up and ask a question? Does it work that way?
I think maybe they have to be posted. And Noel raised a really good point. Just this idea about sometimes hear from students who say, "Oh, I can't decide whether to do journalism or political science. I'm really interested in politics." And maybe they don't often realize you can do both, right? Yeah. Do both. I did a double major in journalism and political science. I completed both degrees simultaneously. Our program is designed specifically to facilitate that. And in the case of journalism and humanities, there's a whole suite of courses that is already established for you. Ethan is asking what gives Carleton the edge over other schools. I'm always really careful about that question because I don't teach at Ryerson at X University. I don't teach at Concordia. I never diss other journalism programs. There are a lot of good places to study journalism in this country, and we do a lot of things in a similar way. I think Carleton, if I had to speak to our advantages, our facilities are state of the art. We're located in the nation's capital. We're located in a bilingual environment and increasingly a multilingual environment. We have a really dynamic program. We have terrific faculty members. We're adding people every year. Last year, we added Nanaba Duncan, Adrian Harewood, Trish Odette Longo. We're hoping to add more people in the years to come, and our students are sometimes our greatest strength. We attract really good students because of Carleton's reputation.
Yeah. And I would just add, too, that some of the things we've already been talking about are advantages. Not all university journalism programs offer the same opportunity to specialize in areas above and beyond journalism. That's one thing. And of course, Carleton has, this rich, multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary reputation. It's a wide-ranging, in some ways, general purpose university that can offer exposure to a whole bunch of other subjects. And our program allows that and encourages it. The other thing that we also encourage is, I mentioned it briefly, but a solid grounding in a full range of platforms, so that we are graduating students who can step into media work in a number of different areas, whether it's in print/digital journalism, or audio or video or podcasting or whatever it may be. So recognize that you're well prepared for a career. And the other thing about our program is we do actually do a lot of, education career transition work, so that people get the opportunity to do internships. We're in the process of actually transforming our resource center into a, how would you call it, Alan, a resource/career center?
Career services. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's a big part of what we do is preparing people for careers. And I know all universities and all university programs are doing that to some extent, but there is a very practical component to a journalism degree that leads well into the workplace, and we take advantage of that in many ways.
Yeah. I know we've only got a couple minutes left, but there are a couple questions, so I want to make sure we grab them. Antonia is asking, is the program offered in English and French? Our program, our courses in journalism are offered in English. We do strongly encourage students to have a second language, to use the facilities at Carleton to learn a second language. You can study other languages alongside your journalism program at Carleton. We also have the ability for students to take credits at University of Ottawa, where you could take some instruction in the French language, but our program is delivered in English. Yusra is asking a question. Not sure I have the answer, so we'll make sure that we follow up by email. Are there any specific requirements for homeschoolers coming into this program? In terms of admission requirements, get in touch with us, ask the question, and we would get you a detailed answer. And but otherwise, apply, get accepted, and then we'll be in touch.
Okay, I think we're getting the signal that we're going to have to wrap up. I'll just quickly throw in that the question that just appeared about sports journalism, there's a lot of opportunity to develop that specialization and to explore opportunities. We have specific courses dedicated to it. But the other thing is we are very open for people to shape the stories that they write and the the assignments that they complete based on the passions that they have, whether it's sports or fashion, arts and culture, politics, international relations. So all of those things that are specialized subjects can also be specialized subjects for the journalism that you do. And so remember that it's a very flexible program that way. I think we're being told it's time to tune out. So thank you all for coming. Thank you to my colleagues who joined me on this panel, and just reach out if you have other questions going forward, folks.
Thanks. Be in touch.